John Pierpont Morgan, widely known as J.P. Morgan, is principally remembered for being a notable American financier and industrial organizer, and he founded the bank that still bears his name today, J.P. Morgan Chase & Company. He is acclaimed as one of the most important financial figures of the decades before the First World War. Morgan's reorganization of many major railroads earned him considerable power and influence, and his financing of company consolidations led to the creation of corporations such as General Electric, International Harvester, and United States Steel. J.P. Morgan & Company partners, along with the directors of First National and National City Bank, would eventually control resources worth $22.24 billion, an amount which Louis Brandeis, eventually a U.S. Supreme Court justice, said was roughly equal in value to all of the property across the 22 states west of the Mississippi, a staggering amount. J.P. Morgan was an avid yachtsman who in 1882 developed the 185-foot yacht known as Corsair. That yacht was one of the largest yachts of the time, and J.P. Morgan was one of the first to develop the concept of luxury mega yachts. In 1891, he even built a bigger and more luxurious yacht, Corsair II, which was 240 foot long. In 1898, Morgan built faster and more luxurious 304-foot-long yacht Corsair III, which was one of the first yachts to have cases of wine and stocks of Cuban cigars. Upon the development of Corsair III, Corsair II was given to the United States Navy, and they renamed the yacht USS Gloucester. All the yachts got wide media attention as having a luxurious mega yacht was a new concept at that time. One journalist asked about the cost of Corsair III. J.P. Morgan famously said, "If you have to ask how much it costs, you can't afford it." J.P. Morgan was famous for his predictions of future events, and he used such future-based knowledge to make big profits, as once someone asked him how he predicts the future, he replied, "Millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do." Want to know how J.P. Morgan acquired such a huge empire of wealth and luxury? Watch the full video. J.P. Morgan, founder of the largest bank in the world. We at Business Chronicles tell the stories of extraordinarily successful people. Please subscribe to our channel to help us in making more videos. In 1837, J.P. Morgan was born in Hartford, Connecticut to Junius Spencer Morgan, who was a very powerful banker and financier. His father created a merchant bank called J.S. Morgan & Company in London. The bank was successor of George Peabody & Company. A merchant bank today is known as an investment bank, which deals with commercial loans and investments, as historically they used to deal with merchants. So in old times, they were known as merchant banks. In 1851, he got admission in the English High School of Boston, where he learned mathematics and commerce. After graduation from high school, he went to Switzerland to learn French. Later, he went to Germany to learn German. He got a degree in art history from the University of Göttingen, which is in Lower Saxony, central Germany. In 1857, he started working for the New York banking firm of Duncan, Sherman & Company, taking the position of accountant. It represented London firm called George Peabody & Company, which was acquired by his father's firm called J.S. Morgan & Company. Morgan avoided service in the American Civil War by paying someone $300 to go in his place. But he still played a part in the conflict in an incident referred to later as the Hall Carbine Affair. He financed the purchase of 5,000 surplus Army rifles from an arsenal for $17,500, which were then sold back to the government for $110,000. It was later held up as an example of scandalous wartime profiteering and seen as an indictment of Morgan. From 1864 to 1871, he worked for Dabney Morgan & Company, then became partner in Drexel Morgan & Company, a New York City firm. It was soon to become the main avenue for government financing. In 1895, it became J.P. Morgan & Company, and thanks largely to Morgan's skills, rose to become one of the world's most influential banking houses. Thanks to his association with the Peabody Company, Morgan enjoyed close links with London's financiers, and these connections would prove to be exceptionally useful in extending the firm's wealth and influence. During the 1870s, U.S. industrial corporations entered a phase of rapid growth, and Morgan was able to feed their expansion in part with British banking capital. The railroads were in dire need of reorganization, and he set to work on this in 1885. He brokered an agreement between two of the nation's largest companies, the Pennsylvania Railroad and the New York Central Railroad. The ensuing entente cordiale avoided what could have been a calamitous rate war and competitive skirmishes between the two. He moved on to more of the major railroads in 1886, reorganizing them to stabilize their financial base. With each new corporate restructuring, Morgan attained another new direction, sitting on their boards and in doing so, securing a great deal of influence. This spread to Pennsylvania and Ohio railroads between 1885 and 1888, and following the financial panic of 1893, when the Philadelphia and Reading Railroad and the National Cordage Company failed, setting off a domino effect that caused hundreds of other business failures and prompted fears of a stock market collapse. He was asked to fix many of the country's principal railroads. These included the Southern, Erie, and Northern Pacific lines. In the East, competition between companies had been steeped in chaos, and Morgan helped to promote greater stability there while stabilizing railroad rates. The more railroads he organized, the more stock he controlled, and this helped him to become one of the most powerful railroad magnates in the world, with 5,000 miles or 8,000 kilometers of American railroads in his hands by 1902. Which means he controlled around half of the United States railroads. Following the 1893 panic, the ensuing depression was tough sledding for many, but Morgan seized upon the opportunity it presented. The U.S. government's gold reserves were seriously depleted, so he created a syndicate to supply $62 million worth of the precious metal, seeing off a treasury crisis in the process. It's clear that his abilities extended beyond the realm of the railroads. The banker's instincts that led him to exploit this opportunity also helped him to reshape the American manufacturing sector. He financed several enormous industrial consolidations, including the merger between Thomson-Houston Electric Company and Edison General Electric, that gave birth to General Electric. It turned into the prevailing manufacturer of electrical equipment in the country. Morgan's financing had helped to create the Federal Steel Company in 1898, and his assistance in its merger with the enormous Carnegie Steel Company and others in 1901 created the United States Steel Corporation. It has the honor of becoming the world's first billion-dollar corporation. Morgan bought a number of the country's predominant agricultural equipment makers in 1902 to create the International Harvester Company. He also put his organizational skills to work to amalgamate most of the transatlantic shipping companies, including White Star, forming the International Mercantile Marine. Morgan was booked on the inaugural voyage of the White Star Line's Titanic in 1912, but had to miss it due to illness. And what a fortuitous illness it was. Infamously, the ship hit an iceberg in the North Atlantic and sank, resulting in the deaths of 1,517 passengers and crew. Another stock market panic ensued in 1907. Morgan was successful in leading the American financial community in an attempt to head off a nationwide financial collapse. He headed up a group of bankers that shored up the major corporations and banks by distributing government financial relief effectively, to the extent that he saved the American monetary system from collapse. The crisis took the country to the brink, and in doing so, highlighted the need for proper oversight. Political leaders and high-ups in the banking world realized that they could not afford to let this happen again, and were all too aware that were a similar crisis to ensue in the future, they probably wouldn't have another J.P. Morgan Sr. to rely on to fix it. In 1913, along with Senator Nelson Aldrich, they put together a plan that led to the creation of the Federal Reserve System, a testament to his renown and an amazing legacy achievement. From this point on, Morgan stopped undertaking major reorganizations and focused his efforts on increasing his control over numerous insurance companies and banks. And his success in doing so helps to explain why he attracted occasional distrust. All of the board's positions he had achieved in so many important companies meant that his banking house gained unparalleled levels of control and influence. He had a hand in steering so many of the country's financial institutions and corporations that the federal government, along with critics and reformers, came to see him as someone who was simply too powerful. Despite such misgivings, he maintained his influence right up until his death, in his sleep in Rome in 1913. Morgan left his fortune, amounting to an estimated $80 million, worth more than $2.2 billion today, to his son John Pierpont Morgan Jr. J.P. Morgan was born into a powerful banking dynasty. He learned from his father and used his father's influence and knowledge to become partner of a prestigious banking firm called Duncan, Sherman & Company. He knew where to invest and what to invest. He financed purchase of 5,000 surplus rifles and sold them back to the government, as he knew the government would need to buy them at any cost due to shortage of rifles. He was very good at turning around the failing business. He used to buy controlling stakes in companies and reorganize these companies to make them more profitable and stable. He fixed many of the United States' principal railroads and became the most powerful financier in the history of the world. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to watch more videos like this.